Hey, now I'm unmuted. Hey, everyone. Let's go. Welcome to
man.
Hunter Talk. Good Monday Eve to y'all.
Yep.
And good past weekend of League of Legends viewing as a whole, if we're being honest. Lot of great series. I've still got VODs queued up to catch up on something that happened in the lesser leagues, you know? But yeah, it was
the lesser oh
yeah, you know, the lesser regions.
Don't need to name them. I know.
Yeah.
I know the idea.
I forget the names of those regions, but
yeah.
It was a good weekend. Now, just tantalizingly close for us. But as you can see, I'm not wearing black today. I'm feeling okay. So I don't know how you're feeling.
Your hat. Your hat is black, but
I'm not in mourning. Right?
Right.
I don't have the netting over my face.
The mourner's wail is not how we kicked off the podcast today. I'm feeling similarly. If anything for me, it's just like, we were so close. My prediction was almost right. I almost had it, Cole. They almost had it.
Close, but no
they
cigar.
almost came through for me. But yeah, it's not the wasn't meant to be. So, more games to play, more series to win, and got more work to do, which, it's World's prep. That's what it is at this point. It's just World's prep, baby.
Yeah, and I like that. That's the same kind of thought I've had. Is like, the more series, the better. Going into this, I mean, we had the bye, so we kind of lost one on the front end, which was fine because we locked in Worlds, and now that we've locked in Worlds, give us more games. Yeah. Give the guys more time. I'm all about that.
Would have been very happy to just go straight to finals.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I don't want to get ahead of us, but it's kind of one of those things where it's barring a major blowout. In my mind, there's not a super bad outcome from last weekend. And it certainly was not a blowout. It was very close, very competitive games. We showed up and we played some good League. So a lot to talk about, but also a lot to feel hopeful about, optimistic.
Yeah. Well, one thing to talk about is that we are powered by the one, the only Rip It Energy drink. Active camo tonight. Jordan's rocking the same color can as I am. In fact, Jordan, do you want to be active camo right now as well? Let's just turn on your active camo. There you go.
Did you?
Except yours ends up being black.
Just black.
Because you don't have anything behind you.
Right.
In the thing. That's my bad. That's a production quirk there. My background's fake. Yours is not.
Production quality slipping. My active camo is busted. We'll have to write the producers about that and get it settled for next time.
All right. You know my email.
I'm wearing the Cardinal, by the way.
Oh, nice. I've got the Stone or whatever, right? Stone? Am I remembering right? I think it's called the Stone jersey. But mine looks like the wore it 20 times without washing version of yours.
That's right.
Anyway.
True fans wear theirs 20 times without washing.
That's right. Here's what we're going to do. We're actually going to talk through the games a bit, I think, because I think it's going to be worth it to talk about how they went. Because on closer inspection of the series, again, I think there's much to be positive about, much to be optimistic about. And then we'll do the usual. We'll talk about some general stuff and then how we think the Saturday matchup is going to go against C9. And maybe go beyond that, even depending on what our predictions are. Anyway, very excited to do that. And we'll do listener takes as always. I predict, Prophet Cole is going to predict this episode is going to go long. For the first time, I'm usually we're going to be shorter than normal tonight. No, I'm predicting we're going to go long.
Yeah.
Well,
here comes the 3-hour podcast then, because usually our average
short is an hour 30.
Yeah, short's an hour 30. All right, well, I've got Rip It, so I'm fine. Let's crack this thing and get to it.
All righty, let's start from the very beginning. Game 1. So, and when we talk about the games, I think we're going to talk overview fashion, and some of that will just spiral into topics. So, I gotta say, watching game 1 was what I was expecting going into the series. You know, you guys will remember I predicted a loss to Team Liquid 3-1, right? Like I was like, okay, we're going to take one game off of them, but it's going to be a loss. And game one went pretty much how I anticipated. It was pretty even. In fact, it was very even through about 20 minutes or so into the game.
Yeah.
And then the draft mistake, I don't know. We'll debate whether we're calling it a mistake. But letting Rel through to Core JJ ended up punishing us right at about the 20-minute mark. The Rel JJ engage got 4 of us off a river, and that was basically the game.
That was it.
That was it. It was like very close, very tight, contested game, and then that happened, and it was like, now this is going to spiral a bit.
Now it's not close anymore.
Yeah.
Now Core JJ is here. Yeah.
And that's kind of how I felt going in. I was like, look, I don't think we're that far behind these guys based on our EG series. Because, in my opinion, we played EG like with more separation with us in a different tier of play than they did. You know, even though it looked close in the end, I was just like, no, we're clearly the better team. But yeah, it was like kind of as soon as they got that team fight win, it was just methodical from them, and that's kind of what I'm expecting at this point.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the if there was a theme across many of these games, like I guess if I were to try to peg TL's strength right now, it's like they, at least in our series, they are so good at getting these just key engages, these key set pieces where they get everything from you and they don't give it back. Yeah. And that's exactly what this one was. It's Core JJ, man, just doing. And you asked, is it a draft mistake to let him have Rel? I don't really feel like it is, to be honest with you, because he is so versatile. He's so versatile that I don't know. I don't think there's a champion that you could look at for him to say, well, you gotta ban it. And if you don't, then you know what to expect. Because we saw him have devastatingly effective picks throughout the series, basically. So I don't hold it against us for not banning that, especially in game one. I feel like game one's kind of a, you really don't know what to expect as much. But yeah, his Rel is still just as brutal as it has been.
I feel like it's more brutal
probably
than some of his
there
other
have been
picks.
There have been other games like this, from him.
Yeah, exactly.
On Rel. So
just watching the positioning on that engage though is like he gets in the exact right spot. Like there's like a few pixels worth of give around on each dimension, but he's right there. You know what I mean? And when you're that good at the champ, it does things. You also saw him like buffering stuns. He buffered who he almost had a solar flare engage, if I'm remembering right, as I think they were going upriver towards mid lane. 100 Thieves was chasing, and who he had like a perfect solar flare on him, but he buffered with the dismount.
Yep.
And otherwise that would have been like huge for us. And, it's just one of those things, man. He just knows the champ. And
he's just so good.
He's Core JJ. It's hard to dislike him, but he surely had his way in this game and kind of turned it. It looked like a stomp. It ended up looking like a stomp because they methodically executed from 20 minutes on. But again, I don't think you can like look at it and just discount what happened in those first 20 minutes. Like all the analysts, all the predictions were like, oh yeah, Team Liquid's gonna like smash 100 T. It's not gonna be close. And then they kind of like played this game out and they're like, see, told you. Like, well, was it though?
Knew it.
Was it? I'm not really sure.
Right.
So that's the thing. And I mean, look, I fully recognize I predicted the TL 3-1. So it's not like I didn't believe in TL's strength or whatever, but I'm just saying it was kind of opportunistic because and a little dishonest to me based on what I saw. You, am I not mistaken? You had a note about the draft or something, right?
Yeah. So you remember going into this series, basically I just talked about the way we played the EG series and the intentionality I saw in us kind of just playing the same look over and over and over and over again because EG let us. And I think that was actually, we saw a little bit of that strategy continued in this game. and it was that they banned Viego, and
Yeah.
they didn't want us to play it because they saw what Closer could do on it. And I thought pretty interestingly, this was another draft that felt comparable to what we played against EG. It was Rise, and then a supporting cast of other team fighting champions with
the Leona
even the Ornn, even the Lee Sin. Like we saw, that's where he went when they banned Viego last time. So we didn't show them anything new basically in this game. And they beat us. So good job on doing your homework, TL. Like you watched the EG series and basically said, it's kind of like we went for a bonus in Valorant. Like we had the same stuff that we had from EG series, and we just thought maybe we'd start it out there. Because if you win on a bonus, you're feeling great, and you have even more, options available to you going forward.
Sure.
So I just want to call that out. I think it was super smart, and it was kind of what I'd hoped to see happen, which is let's just see if we can get a freebie.
It felt fairly calculated and predictive from 100T. I think this was the draft that we wanted. Core JJ on Rel is a little bit iffy, like I said, but I think largely is we saw what the plan was here. Like you said, run it back, do what we did, see how it works. We've got Ssumday on Ornn, which I think is having him on champs like that against Alphari was part of the plan as well. And like I said, it was closer than it seemed. So that didn't stop 100 Thieves from switching it up for the next game, though. Do you have any other notes on game 1 before we talk game 2?
Just that the Jace Varus is a dangerous combo. And if you can get Rel pulling everybody into the same little pocket of space, then, basically those two can do 2k damage with one skill shot. So that is a bit of foreshadowing, and it wasn't awesome for us. And you asked me if I was scared of Alphari, and I said yes last week, and this was a good game from him and kind of an indicator of what was to come.
Yeah. Well, game 2, like we said, was different draft wise for us. You saw Ssumday stay on the Ornn, but again, the 3 middle picks, we've got Diana for closer and jungle, Aurelia in mid for Abidaga, and Vayne for FBI.
Ooh.
So definitely a different look from us, answering what was certainly a different look from them. So this to me felt like the most out of control, weird draft that we had. I didn't think our picks were bad. You know what I mean? Like I didn't feel bad about our picks. But their picks were just crazy, and ours were a little unexpected too. I mean, they, if I'm not mistaken, were their first 2 picks the Sejuani and the Lee Sin?
I can't remember order.
Was it, or they picked? I don't know, but I remember when it came out, and it was like, oh, where's stuff going here? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
It got confusing. I would need to look at the actual draft order, but there was a little bit of what's going to happen, because especially with the Ziggs pick too. I mean, again, we saw Ziggs support. We did that. And it was awesome. Didn't feel confident in what I was seeing from them until the draft finally finished. And then after that, it's like, wow, this is kind of weird. You know what I mean? So new look for us. And I liked it. And it was very interesting how this one played out, because so we were talking about how game 1 was very even though it didn't really look that way. Right.
Right.
And in game 2, I think you're tempted to kind of make the same argument, because gold-wise, the game was virtually a lock, I think, through another 20 minutes or so, right? Something like that. Like the gold was fairly locked. I think we even seesawed a little bit within 1K of gold leads on either side. But really, it wasn't. And it really wasn't. And this is one of the times where the kill score is very meaningful. Right? Because that's what I saw. It was, we were running around the map, and it seemed like whenever we found them, we killed them. Right? That's what it was. It was like a roaming aggression. We were winning out on everything. And so even though the gold wasn't like getting ahead, it was like, but as soon as we see you, you're dead. You know what I mean? And so,
Right.
while gold wise, like they kept it tight, I was like, they can't do anything right now. They just can't. And so I've got like, you know, in my mind, because the kill score finished out at 19-3. That's they got 3 kills, and one of those was FBI inting at the end to try and get the kill in the well, right? So it's really like
Fountain assist.
Team Liquid went a full game only getting 2 kills. We basically got 10 times as many kills as them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so we just weren't losing any sort of fights. Now they had good macro and stuff, right? Like they were moving around. They were that's how they kept the gold close. Good for them. That lasts a certain amount of time until it's over. And I thought the Vayne pick in this comp looked good. Thought the Aurelia looked good. The Diana looked incredible. The Diana really actually, I need to bring up KDA. The
6-0 and 8.
Yeah, I was gonna say it looked really, really good. I loved seeing Closer get in there and mix it up. Like, I don't know, this comp like really, really wrecked them when it came to fighting.
Yeah, no, it's and this is exactly what I was excited for and banking on. Honestly, is that we had some stuff that we could show that we had not given any indication that you should be preparing against or for, and it just worked. I mean, I think with this team comp, you have probably the reason it felt a little closer, or at least the gold was closer, is because this is a very like win more comp, right?
Yeah.
Or at least hold your own so that you get Vayne online, so that you get Aurelia online, and they were online for pretty much the whole game. So it's kind of like they, you know, TL could never really do what they were trying to do in this game. You know, they did it to some effect, but like you said, they're just getting picked off everywhere, and they never had the ability to sustain any kind of you know, split map pressure. Like the Ziggs was, I'm sure, collecting turrets. I can't remember exactly. I think they had 3 turrets pretty early, and a lot of their gold that they were keeping up with us obviously was turrets because they didn't have kills. So, you know, he'd walk up and he'd satchel a turret and he'd get some gold, and it's great, and everybody feels fine when they look at the scoreboard.
Yeah.
But it was, you know, everyone on our team was online. Like, you know, Closer was just a monster. I thought the Vayne looked really good, and I was excited to see that pick. And then, but I think for me, the most exciting thing was the Aurelia, and he started to get ahead pretty early on that, and that was huge. And this was the kind of thing that we talked about needing to see from him if we hope to win the series.
Right? Different picks
and picks that had the ability to turn a fight in our favor, not just to set up a fight or to have a specific utility role to play in a team fight.
Yeah.
Like he just showed up and he started dashing and killing people. And there were a couple fights where he you know, he did the Aurelia thing where he's at like 300 HP and somehow gets an entire, you know, 2 or 3 rounds more of his combo.
Yeah.
And then
it's like, why won't you die?
Yeah, his ults were awesome. So yeah, I think that I don't know, you know, it seems like both teams kind of went for the like game 2, you know, all new us approach, and ours certainly worked better.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know if I'd say it was like a direct answer. Like I doubt that they were prepared for what TL threw out there, because how could you?
Yeah, that was weird. I would have been surprised if they saw that in scrims or something.
Right. Tactical's played Ziggs before, so that's not like brand new, but it's just a weird look. But yeah, I thought they executed really well, and it was just a super smart game. I don't think they were ever in danger of losing this one, even though the gold, it was not a 12K gold lead. You know, so make of that what you will. But yeah, I like the look. It's just refreshing to see us do something new that works really well. And this is what I said we had to be able to do, especially as you think about Worlds. We have to be threatening these kinds of things as other teams are preparing to play against us who don't have, you know, a full year's worth of experience against us.
Yeah, and plus, I mean, even thinking more short term than that, we got to see, and we can now study a successful look against this team that we could possibly see in the finals again, right? Like, we're not out of this thing. We played 5 games with them. We got a taste of what they can do. They got a taste of what we can do. And so this look is like, hey, this was actually a pretty successful style against them. And take note, because that was a style with Ssumday on the Ornn, foreshadowing the conversation. Were you going to say something? It looked like you were about to say something.
Yeah, the other thing I was going to say is, this is Core JJ's worst stat line probably of all time. 0-6-1, right? And
oh wow, it was that bad?
I mean, we've seen Huhi on a set that is hopelessly behind so far as like his team goes. So everybody on the team behind, Set is not a champion at that point. But I don't think it's a mistake that our most dominant game, that is the stat line he had. He had nothing that he could do. Even he hit like one or two great haymakers and got some good true damage down, but
some really creative placements on the haymakers and stuff where I was like, hey man, he's good.
Yeah. But a lot of the time he was just kind of using the kit to try to stay alive. And that's, if you're doing that on set, then your lifespan in any team fight is very limited.
Yeah.
So,
I'd like to contrast Core JJ's stat line with Huhi 0-1-14.
Yeah.
That is a pretty clean game, man.
Pretty effective. Yeah. Pretty good stat line.
Yeah. So really, the game went, what, about 35 minutes, it looks like, is how long this one went. And it didn't get blown open, it looks like, until 28 minutes. But I'm telling you, it was not close. It just, I don't know. It just felt inevitable the whole time. So I hope that the staff is like, okay, cool. How can we create similar comps that do the same thing so that we have this option that we can pull out against TL, if we see them in the finals. I really hope that they're banking on that. And just seeing what we were able to do when we got out and got around and started murdering everybody. So,
well, and you mentioned Ornn. There's just a lot of great Ornn targets in the TL lineup here.
Yeah.
Like, Jensen is one of the only people who has the ability to, he's got a dash and, ward hops and all that. And Sejuani's got a dash, but tactical is not going anywhere.
He can satchel. He's got a satchel.
He can satchel. That's a pretty advanced hop out of the way. You're making yourself airborne to try to prevent being airborne. And then Set, so like this team in a team fight situation, just prime Ornn target.
Yeah. Well, so coming off of that, so I got like, hey, first game went kind of how I expected, played them pretty close, ended up losing. Second game, actually, like, nicely done. We looked pretty dominant there. So going into the third game, I was feeling more optimistic. I was starting to tell myself, maybe I'm wrong about, maybe Prophet Cole is going to be wrong this time. And then we had the game 3. Okay. Now, I don't know where you want to start with this. If we want to start with the 12K thing, or if we want to start earlier in the game. How do you feel?
I think let's start earlier, because I feel like just the feeling of this game was so weird.
Yeah, this was, I don't know. It felt a little more straightforward to me. I mean, again, very even. I think, weren't we ahead most of the time in gold? It was virtually locked. I think we had a small lead. 16 minutes happened. So this is where I had my bookmark here on the VOD. We had an insanely close team fight at 16 minutes. It was so close. It was a protracted thing.
Back and forth.
Yeah, it's like people are surviving, but they have like no health bars left. Like that sort of thing where just both teams decide to empty the tank on a play and see where the chips fall. And it was so close. And we lost out on that fight. I think, I don't know how many we lost. Maybe we lost 3 or 4. I don't think we got aced.
It was either 3 or 4.
But it swung the whole game. It just busted open the whole thing for them. I don't know. So we ended up behind by a bit. And then it just like kind of snowballed from there and slowly got more and more out of control. At this point, so I don't know why but my 7-year-old daughter has started watching the games with me, which is awesome.
Excellent.
I'm not complaining.
The plan is
I'm
complete.
not forcing it upon her or anything like that. She just comes and sits and watches games with me, right? And she's like, it's like getting close to time for her to start getting ready for bed and all this stuff. And she's like worried about missing the game. And I'm like, honey, it is not
That's
close.
awesome.
It's not close. Like it's super so I found that I have to talk to her very literally. I can't exaggerate or make some sort of sweeping claim because she just focuses in on the details. But so I said it's very, very unlikely that 100 Thieves can win this game. You can leave, you can do what you need to do. You're not going to be missing anything, right?
Yeah.
And I insisted that was the case. And then she told me that I forget how she said it, but basically she told me that I was being a pessimist, which was hilarious because she was like chiding me for not believing in the team or whatever. And I was like rolling my eyes. I'm
we have
there,
Diego.
Yeah. But I'm sitting there like rolling my eyes, like how do I explain to her that we're 12K gold behind?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, look, we're not gonna win this game. Just go chill. Just do your thing. Whatever. But
sure enough, did she stay up and watch it?
Yeah, she watched this.
That's
and
good.
She didn't understand really what was going on, but I started like hyperventilating basically at that fight in bot side when we started to turn it. Yeah. And I think that's when she knew something was up.
This game was on, I think, when we were having like I was camping over the weekend, a late dinner. And I was like this close to turning it off because I was like, I think this one's done, and I'll check back in for the next game. Glad I didn't.
Yeah. It's unbelievable what happened. So I think he got off the engage, if I'm remembering right, which is like, it's kind of poetic, considering he's on the rel right after a core JJ just busted a game open. He does the same thing, right? And during this fight, it was in a weird place in bot side jungle, and several things were happening. But again, the he engaged was incredible. It was just ahead of an Alfari TP, so like they hit the go button before Alfari could really join the fight, which was nice. And then FBI Buster shot tactical just far enough out of the fight that bought them time to really turn this thing. I could not believe it when it started happening because I was like watching the health bars. I was like, wait.
Here
Wait.
Comes the Callista.
And they won the fight. Now, hilariously, and again, I was talking to my daughter the whole time. So that fight happens and she sees that happens. She's like, see, they won. And I was like, this game is far from it. So I was like, they got to do that, another time or two to even be competitive in this game. So I know we just won that fight, but we're still it's still over, down. Right? But thank goodness for dragon stacking, right? This was weird. Did they let us go up 3-0 or was it 3-1?
I think maybe it's 3-1. A couple of things on that fight though.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Actually, the very first thing that happens is that Abbedagge gets the ult on LeBlanc, which doesn't, that doesn't end the fight or swing it. But I feel like it does just put him in a position where he is on the defensive, like he's on the back foot trying to get out of the fight rather than opening up the fight. So because he got it back, he distorted backwards, and then that's where he got him, right? Yeah, I think he buffered it, so he was basically, so he ended up being ulted in a pretty safe spot, but
but it allowed everybody time to get in.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Everybody
opened it up for a Huhi. Yeah, and then Viego. Of
course,
is, that I guess that's kind of the design of the champ, right? Like you killed somebody, you get their stats, and then you are the strongest player in the fight, and you have all the other stuff that champ can do.
And he already was doing pretty well.
Yeah, so he got the shutdown on Jensen. I think it was right after the tactical Buster shot out that he was able to chase.
Yeah,
Jensen
that's right.
To the tail end of the fight and secure the kill. And the crazy thing is I don't think he did any damage as LeBlanc. He just got he used his sword to get close.
He just mobility,
and then did another reset and ult and all that. So just a crazy fight, man. That's a pretty rare thing to see somebody pull that off from down 12K.
Yeah. And it wasn't like we like shocked them on like a catch, like a cheese play or something. It was just that no, we saw a good opportunity and fought them.
Really good.
We won it. Excuse me, one second.
Yep. Yeah, like it was just a really well executed team fight.
Yeah.
That's kind of like, I mean, and you could say that Diego was busted too. That's fine, but like all the other stuff had to happen that we talked about for that fight to come through.
Yeah. Now, again, like I told to my daughter, that didn't mean the game was won for us or that the game was even, right? It did give them, okay, we can actually lose fights now. So it gave them that pause, but we had a fight around Elder Dragon after that where we actually lost and it looked like that was game, right?
Right.
There was a huge stall in that fight where basically like, you know, the fight was won and everybody was kind of migrating to bot lane to buy time, you know, before we died. And Abadaga did the old hide on bush because they survived with Santorin with low health, Jensen, I think, and then they survived with 3. I can't remember exactly who it was, but Santorin with low health was one of them. And as they start moving back up to take Elder Dragon, Abadaga comes out of the bush and just kills him, saving the game. Right? Like if they,
I think he escapes too, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, I think he does get the runaway. He had a couple of juking retreats during this game that was just amazing. He looked pretty good on the champ. Like despite us getting kind of rolled for most of the game, like the mechanics on the champ were creative. It was awesome. But yeah, saved the game. They couldn't take Elder.
Yep.
And then so it was like, all right, well, let's fight around Elder when everybody's back. And Hui gets another God engage on the rel, and we shut it down. I can't believe how that happened. Like, so it was the one impossible team fight. Then the 200 IQ play to save the game from Abadaga after a loss in the team fight. So the team fight loss basically erases whatever we just did. You know what I mean? But he makes the saving play, and then we get another God fight. And this has to be the biggest gold lead we've come back from, right?
I mean, yeah. I think when we won, we were still down like 6K gold, if I'm not mistaken. It was still
well with all the stuff you take, with all the buildings you take on the retreat. I don't think it ended up being that close.
We were only down 1K.
But yeah, I think like functionally, it was like 6 or 7K. But then
probably as we started our victory march, we were down.
You vacuum up the gold on your way in, but it basically just an impossible win from us. Remember how Danny like ripped that game away from us, and we're like, how did the guys bounce back from that and play a clean game and close them out after what happened to them? Then we got an in game. They got rolled and still managed to turn around in this game. I mean, this is the kind of thing that bodes very, very well when you're talking about best of fives, is the team that does not roll over. It's really easy in best of 5, right? To be like, all right, go next. Like, you know what I mean? Because at this point, it's like, all right, it's going to be 2-1 them. We still got time. But no, it's like, no, we can win this somehow. We can win this. And they go for it. And that's probably the single biggest difference between this 100 Thieves team and previous 100 Thieves team, like the 2018 team, is there is absolutely no like, wow, we're just going to give up for this team, which is really, really awesome, man. That just bodes so well.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty wild. And it, you know, that to go from down 2-1 to up 2-1 was a happy moment for me, because I thought that my prediction might actually play out. But also just like, you know, that's we put it back on them, like you said. So I don't really know. I mean, from a strategy team comp perspective, I guess this just further cements the idea that you really don't want closer on Viego.
I can't imagine he gets to play Viego a single other time in LCS.
Yeah, like who does C9 let Viego through? I feel like you have all of EG, you have the 2 wins against TL. It just feels irresponsible at this point to let it happen. So I'm fully expecting that we won't see it, which is too bad because I'm actually a huge Viego fan now. Cole, I don't know. I don't know about
Remember
you.
anemic Viego, and now it's like the single power pick that you will not give to us.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we were so wrong about that.
Yeah.
I don't think he plays it again in LCS. And then they'll nerf it, and then it won't be what it was.
That's right.
So I think we've had our last taste of Closer Viego, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Though it's clearly not his only good jungle champion, as you see the bans being thrown his direction during the series. Like, this dude, he's really, really good. When he's good, he is really good.
Dare I say he's playing like an MVP.
He's playing MVP level for sure right now.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
Okay, well, I don't know. Where does that rank in the top unbelievable moments of 100T?
It's got to be up there.
It with the stakes involved. I don't know. So the Ssumday Jax play against Clutch is one of the most incredible single plays I've seen.
Yeah.
From us. Most unbelievable. Can't believe we pulled that off thing. But I don't think we've quite been in a position that flipped this hard.
Yeah.
Dang, man. That is.
I mean, there are some big plays that, we've had pivotal moments, but this was, it was not just, it was like the number of them you needed to have in a row was pretty unusual, right? Like, we've had Meteos stealing the Elder. We've had people stealing Baron. Like, that kind of stuff happens.
Yeah. The
Meteos
really
Golden Guardian steal.
Back. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's almost harder to claw your way back when there isn't an objective, right? When it's not just like you just smite it and then you get it.
Right.
It's dead and you win. It's almost harder to have all of these things needing to come together as many times as they did. So I think, the level of difficulty for the comeback is that much higher as a result.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think of like most unlikely moments, this is probably up there. Chat's pointing out the Huhi Lissandra engage that we were talking about earlier this week. That also an amazing play, but again, that was a game, that was a tight game. Anyone could win it at any time. So it's not like, oh my goodness, how did we actually win that game? It was more like, oh, he found the perfect play to end the game.
Like, one of these teams eventually is going to have to win this game,
right?
And who will do it? This one was like, TL just needs to, basically, you could replace TL with a bunch of bots at this point, and there's a pretty good chance they win because, your items are stronger at that point. So, yeah.
So, I hope we remember that game. That was incredible. Game 4. I hope we forget this game because this game was basically in our hands. We had a lead, like, basically the whole time. It was one of those, we play the early game close with TL. We maintained a slight lead until the fateful moment where they snuck a Baron. At the time they did this, so let's see, let me look at we're up like 1.5K in gold, and we're just kind of slowly winning it. It felt like,
we were just grinding it out.
Just grinding out a win for sure. And then
this would have been the series win, by the way. This would have been 3-1. We're in finals.
And then there's like a ward that's just not deep enough. It's like, I don't even know how close it, because as they pointed out, you could see Baron and you could see Baron like fighting, but it wasn't close enough to see the player icons on the map. So if you weren't looking, you didn't actually see it. And I don't know how close it was. I would love to see someone do an analysis of like, hey, how close that was. But the Bard portal through the back to sneak that away. And then the gold graph just goes, just total flip of the game. That they stole the series with that.
Yeah. Yep. And just such a smart play.
Mm-hmm. And it ended quickly after that, by the way. It wasn't like, they got the Baron and they stayed alive. It was, no, they got the Baron and we kind of panicked, lost a couple fights, and the timing was really bad for us. We were not prepared at all. And that was that, yeah.
Man, and the only person showing on the map was Jensen on Rise. He's the only one showing. Yeah. There's so many what if scenarios. They talked about a lot of stuff like, well, you gotta have your vision that is not, able to be control warded, so that one control ward can't knock out all your vision. And if you're not playing against the Bard, unless you legit get a 4-person blast cone into the pit, chances are low that you, with a ward on the front door of Baron and the scuttle vision, that you don't see what you need to see. So, I mean, TL just super smart.
And to complicate that further, by the way, sorry to interrupt, but in chat, ZX pointing out, so I Will Dominate looked at the pro view and said Closer actually checked Baron 5 times right before they started it.
Oh.
So it was just COD timing.
Oh, seriously?
You know what I mean? He checked it, and then...
That is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Man. And then, again, and this, for pros, this is probably not the highest level stuff, but if you play, you take more damage when you're behind the Baron. So you have 4 people all just hanging out. That's super risky. If they show up and you have no way out, now granted, your magical voyage is probably back off cooldown. You can try for an escape.
Team can take it too, though.
Yeah. And you've got 4 dudes who have been just eating full Baron damage in the back of the Baron pit. I mean, they put all their chips on the table and they won the series.
Yeah, and honestly, I think they knew they had to do something. I think they knew that game was going to get away from them.
Right. If you just play that game out, 9 times out of 10, we win it from the point we were at, because we were in control.
Yeah. So super sad how that actually happened. And during that game, up until that point, I was like believing. I was sitting there like, we're about to go to finals on the winners bracket.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, like, we're about to put Team Liquid down.
Right.
And I'm starting to like think about, what am I going to tweet about this? Prophet Cole was wrong. I better queue up all my like slander towards the other teams that I'm going to tweet. Oh. And then, it just all disappeared. And when we go into game 5, it's like, well, at least we've got a group of players who doesn't get tilted by this sort of thing. Yeah. You know what I mean? So going to game 5 is like, you know what? As long as they can say in their heads, like, look, we had that, and just one mistake cost us everything. Let's just reset, kind of like we did against EG, and take this thing. I actually felt like we're going to win this game 5. And then draft happened.
Oh my gosh.
So where do you want to start with this draft?
TK, probably.
All right. What are your thoughts on this? The TK conversation is interesting.
Man, I swear it looked like he was playing old TK. How did he always have? He had the Devour always. It was always there at the exact moment we needed it to not be. He saved the way this interaction went every single time. It felt like was we get all right, guys, team fight time. Their poke comp, just get in there, blow them up, scatter them to the wind, and we'll chase him down. And then you've got a Varus trying to shoot arrows over his shoulder while we chase him down. And here's what happened instead. All right, team fight, sound the horn, get the guy, and as soon as you're about to get the guy, TK gobbles him up, whoop, and then he takes like, you do probably 60 to 7% of his health bar. He spits the other guy out as soon as he lands, and that guy just starts, it's like, and now all your cooldowns are spent. TK has a shield still to use if he needs it. And guess what? While you've been trying to actually work on this engage you just set up, Jace and Varus are free firing into your backline. And now you're dead. And once TL started doing that, we didn't win a single fight from that point in the game. Like, we always went for that engage, and he always completely stuffed us. It was LeBron James-esque, just getting absolutely slammed. The shot attempt was just denied every time by Core.
So this is really interesting because I actually don't think the TK was that big of a deal.
Oh,
and it may be a case of expectations, because I'm used to what we saw from like lane Tom Kench, like top lane Tom Kench, right? Where he's unkillable.
Oh.
They got Core JJ. They killed that dude. You know what I mean? They're like many times they get the Tahm Kench popped, right? And it's on to the rest of the fight. And it did. So it certainly made a difference. He certainly saved people at times. That's what support does. You know, there's lots of ways that you can play support and serve that kind of function. I didn't think, it's not like it was a bad pick from them, right? But I didn't think it was the pick that kind of broke things. And things kind of played out in the game differently than I thought they would. So I thought, first of all, that it was clear that Team Liquid was going after closer. So the bans they tossed out were Viego, Diana, Lee Sin, and then Syndra and Rise. So it's like, all right, let's take away 3 of his power picks. They're on blue side so they can take Xin, right? So it's basically taking 4 things away from closer and letting him play 5th priority. And our answer to that was that we're going to play Olaf, which means, by the way, that we got to crush early game and snowball the Olaf, especially because we picked Twisted Fate. Now, I actually like the idea of Twisted Fate in this because you've got the gold card rapid fire cannon thing where it's like the chase down. It's all about setting up that kill, right? Which again, worked. It worked. The Twisted Fate kill setup was happening. But the other part of Twisted Fate was happening too, where, you know, you don't have the damage later in game. And the casters were dwelling on this a lot. They were like, look, there's no damage here. You have to basically win this game early. And if you are thinking about Reapered and his perspective on the game, it's game 5. We've basically been winning or going even with their early game every time. What if we just push the gas pedal on the early game, get closer on Olaf? We know if closer gets a good start on Olaf, it's done, right? And not play this scaling, let's see what happens game, and instead just win it. You know what I mean? That's a decent bet. That's a decent bet. It really is. It's just the comp just didn't have enough. And maybe
I mean, you don't want Callista in that comp, do you? Like,
I don't think Callista scales really well, does she? Am I tripping? I think Callista's like a mid-game spike. I mean, I could be wrong. I could be wrong on that because I'm an idiot. But
I think you go for somebody. Yeah. The
thing about Callista though is I don't know what it is, but FBI Callista just isn't it. You would think that he would crush as Callista because of how aggressive he is and how he wants to get those early leads and everything. For whatever reason, and we've said this before this series, I've pointed this out, that FBI's Callista just doesn't do it for me.
Right.
And even when we got a win earlier in the split with it, it just never has felt like I don't feel good when FBI is on Callista.
Yeah. Not
to mention, more on this later, but not to mention FBI just hasn't really been himself as of late for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we haven't talked about him basically at all.
Yeah, and we will, but so it just kind of felt weird because it's like, all right, well, we have him on a champ that's kind of mid-game, kind of makes sense. Ornn, I'm not sure, makes total sense in this too. I think the idea with Ornn is still the focus on let's not let Alfari just like kill Ssumday 10 times in lane. Maybe there's other champs that can perform that same function but still have some damage to the kit instead of just pure setup, because there was so much setup in our team comp, right? You have Leona, Twisted Fate, and Ornn. It's like all about setting up those kills. Mm-hmm. And it almost still worked. It really did.
Yeah.
And I had to kind of be convinced of this in talking with some people about the games, where it's like, I like the Twisted Fate pick because the setup idea, it's just the execution didn't work. And so whenever the casters call something out during the game, I don't want it to be true when it's really simple. No. You know, it's like it seems like really simplistic when you're losing and they keep dwelling on this, like, oh, they're not gonna have the damage, It's like, well, if you look closely, you know, here's what's going on. But they're smart and I'm not. So I didn't job. Yeah, I didn't want them to be right, but I don't think that's a tenable position for me. I feel like, yeah, they just ended up not having the damage in this comp. And maybe that's a weakness because Ssumday wasn't able to play something stronger against Alfari. But at the same time, this was the first game where I felt Alfari really mattered, by the way.
Yeah.
That was one of the most surprising things to me is games 1 through 4, I didn't notice him much. And it's not like he did nothing. His Camille was fine. It was pretty good. He obviously was doing good things. His Renekton during that one team fight in like behind Baron Pit, where he stayed alive, he got lots of heal and basically won that fight for him.
Heal. Yeah.
It was a huge fight. So it's like, yeah, but on the whole, I just didn't feel like we were getting that mega Alfari that you're kind of expecting until that last game, where it's like he put like a tracker in the Jace shots. You know, the skill shots would just hit everybody. It wouldn't hit one target. It hit like 3 targets. The shock blast would just destroy everybody. The poke was so freaking strong.
Yeah.
And just would decimate people before we could even like start the fight, man.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was picking up on is this game, like others, we were ahead, right? Like, let the record show we had a lead. And pretty late into the game. Here's the note I have. 28 minutes. We have a 1.2K gold lead, which is not, it's not going to guarantee you the game, but you have the lead. And so in theory, you have more, items and power. We're up 3 Drakes to 1. Great position to be in. So you're up. Okay. 28 minutes. You're up gold. You're on soul point. Awesome. And we go all in on Jensen. Like we put everything on Jensen to try and kill him. And he's on LeBlanc, so he's pretty hard to kill. But the TK denies Jensen, makes it so we can't actually finish him off. And so we switch priority instantly to Xin. And we just go all in on him. And then here's the thing that, like, if you go back and watch that fight, man, it's like, we're basically in a 5v3 and we're just death ball. We just pour it on. Get the sound the horn, make it all happen. Get the solar flare in there. And then you have Varus and Jace just strolling up through bot side jungle. I think that's where this one was. And they're not being targeted at all. There's nobody who is attacking them or sending any spells their way. There's no peel, nothing going their way. They just get free fire. And it's all going into our backline. And that's, there is no way to win that fight. Like, TK buys you enough time, if for nothing else, how long he can, deny access to a target, that it doesn't take a fed Jace and a fed Varus long to dismantle your team.
Yeah.
And then essentially the exact same thing happens in the next team fight around Baron instead of around Dragon. And from then it's all TL and they finish it out.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, that was when I was in the moment watching the game, that's all I could see was us dumping everything into the Tahm Kench and the Xin. Like, everything was going into them. And there's that trade-off, right? Where it's like, you shouldn't be targeting those players because they're going to survive and the squishies are going to be okay. But at the same time, they were positioned well enough that that's all they were offering. You know what I mean? It's like you couldn't get back there to the targets that you needed to kill. Especially with Jace has such long range on the shock blast. Jace can just chill. Alfari's just like, a state over.
Just lobbing bombs.
Yeah, exactly. So it was really frustrating because we still dumped everything into TK and Xin Zhao to get them down, and we didn't. Most often we did not.
Yeah.
So
well, and like, to play that fight back, let's say that you see them coming out of the river and you decide to switch targets. LeBlanc's still full health. Still just fine, able to fight. So if you are standing in a death ball and a LeBlanc is going to have as much fun double distorting into your entire team as a shock blast from Jace. So there's really not a lot of great options. And without that immediate removal of at least one of those 3, that is a really tough team fight to win.
Yeah. and look at the KDAs from Team Liquid, by the way. So Santorin 1, 3, and 12, right? And Core JJ 1, 4, and 10. So it's like we were popping them, we were getting to them, we were killing them. but not until they set up the rest of the team to win the fight. Jensen, for example, we killed him on that one like wave push play, where they set him up with it, which was great, cool. Yep. But that doesn't really count in terms of this discussion, right? Because it's like a little pick, off of a cheese play instead of like fighting. He only died once, like in real fighting, right?
Yeah.
And then other than Santorin and Core JJ, Alfari and Tactical didn't die. Yeah. Zeros, right?
They just did their job. They just stood back and shot very long range skill shots at our team.
Yeah. So
we don't have a lot. Like Callista is
short range.
And so good luck accessing those two, if they are intentionally staying away from you.
Which, hey, I mean, when Tactical plays Callista, it's an entirely different story. That Callista pops off. I don't, again, I just not convinced by the FBI Callista, but it was lost at that point. As soon as we didn't get closer going, as soon as that Olaf doesn't get those early kills, and they went for it and they just didn't get him. After that, it was kind of like, game is done and series is done. So
yeah, live by closer, die by closer. And it's not even like closer sometimes is cold. It's just sometimes closer doesn't get going the way you need him to.
Yeah,
because the other team stops it from happening. He was our carry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I was going to ask you actually who you thought the series MVP for us was.
Let me
just tell. For me, it's obviously closer. For me, like we're basically going the way he's going. Abadaga is in such a weird spot because like he always plays solidly well, and he always like enables stuff to happen, but it's really rare when he's taking over. He had his Aurelia moments, which were really good, and a couple of Sonder setups, which were good, as we mentioned. Like he, keeping that game alive for us in game 3, cool. But closer is just like consistently like the thing where if he's the X variable for us, right? Like if he's doing what closer can do, it's really hard to stop us. And so setting up to enable him, I think, is like the win condition. So despite us going down in this game, it's hard for me to not feel like closer was the MVP. I mean, that last game, he was the only one with multiple kills. He had 6 of them. He clearly was really effective on the kill side like the whole time. And his Viego is game breaking. So to me, that's who the MVP was closer. Do you feel any differently than that?
I can't make a meaningful case for anyone else. I mean, I think it would be who he is the backup to that probably. Just because he did have really key plays and very solid games, as he does, right? Like, I think that's what we've come to expect from him. In the same way that closer has become our carry, I think that who he has become the steady state, kind of reliable setup and like clutch play deliverer. So, he did his thing, and then I think you kind of look at, like, I agree with you. I think Abadaga is still, I still feel like his role with this team is undefined in some ways, some important ways. FBI, I think, I think this was not his strongest series. And we can talk about that more if we want, but I think it's right now safe to say this was not his dominant for, tour de force. And Ssumday was, I don't think anybody expected him to have the career series against Alfari.
But I want to talk about that because I think if there's a single most surprising thing about this series, that's it. So we know against EG, Ssumday like somehow neutralized impact, right? Ssumday played very, very well against EG, and they really tried to exploit him as a weakness, right? In this game, you're just chalking that lane before the matches even start, right? It's just like, no, Alfari's going to smash him. That's what the common wisdom is. Ssumday played a heck of a series, honestly. To me, I know he's on closer and Gnar, right? He's on closer. He's on Ornn and Gnar. 3 Ornn games, 2 Gnar games. But I'm telling you, he did a good job. Again, I didn't feel like Alfari truly mattered until that last game, which is pretty shocking to me. Like, I thought it was like, can we weather the huge top diff that we're going to see here? Because even though, again, Ssumday's like my favorite 100 Thieves player of all time, as I always say, but he just has not been on form largely this split. But playoffs came around and this man locked back in. And I think there was a lot of talk about what Ssumday should be playing. And it feels like past years of 100 Thieves where it's like, we need to put Ssumday on carry champs. It's a tricky thing because he's, in my opinion, he's playing very well at the moment. So maybe we let him do that. But at the same time, historically, it's been like, he's actually more valuable to the team as a whole when he's playing weak side. So there's a lot of like Reddit discussion around this. I don't know. What do you have thoughts on this Ssumday situation? I am defending what he did. I'm defending the Ornn picks, the Gnar pick. And I'll give you some reasons why, but I want to hear what you have to say first.
Yeah. I don't know. It's hard for me to move away from this idea that anytime you see somebody play a 5-game series with 1 or 2 looks, that it isn't on some level because of lack of confidence. And, this is
you mean
partially
in playing like more play styles?
Yeah. Like, I do wonder, are there other things that we could have or would have liked to have played him on? I mean, look, Ornn is a flexible champ. He can work well in a lot of different setups for sure. Gnar is the same way. Both of these super strong team fighting champs bring a lot without having, significant leads, which you should not expect for Ssumday to have a significant lead in this matchup. So it's not reliant on him doing anything outstanding in lane. And, look,
you also have gold insurance on the Ornn, right? If this game goes long, you're going to be making up any difference that might be there.
Right. So maybe maybe it is purely a strategic decision by the staff here to say, we know that Ssumday is not going to outlane Alphari because no one is in the LCS, including Ssumday. And rather than find ourselves with it, like, okay, think about a GP, right? If you're a GP who's down 40 CS against whoever, and you try to bring a GP ult to the opposite side of the map, do people care? At that point, does it matter as much? Like, you've seen what a fed GP can do in a team fight from all the way across the map. It can swing an entire game. So I just feel like a lot of the stuff that we were able to do against EG, because Ssumday was, he showed out against Impact. I just don't think you can count on it, and you shouldn't against Alphari. He is that good. So he had a different job this time around. He had a different job. And, I think I'm probably a bit less, I probably view it a bit less favorably. I just think some of his ult placements weren't the best. Like, some of his target selection, I feel like could have been improved on, especially on the Ornn games.
He whiffed that ult on Tactical when Tactical was slowed, and not like whiffed by aiming too far. That was a weird miss.
Some of that stuff, I'm just like, if you are doing this, there are a few things on your must-do list, and getting the carry is one of them, especially if it's a Jace, if it's a Varus, right? Where these guys, they're not bringing a kit that has a lot of mobility in it. So some of that stuff, it's just like that. For me, that's the gap. That it's fine for us, and I don't think we should say, well, Ssumday just clearly isn't that good anymore because he's not playing carries. But a lot of different ways you can have an impact on a game than playing carries, especially if you have 3 people in other positions who are fully capable of carrying, at least when we're at our best. So that's kind of how I feel about Ssumday. Is it's fine if this is the role he's being put in, especially against the consensus best top laner in the league. And when he was in the LEC, is consensus one of the best there too. So like, he's legit good. But it's like some of the fundamentals just felt a little bit off to me.
So I think we kind of agree on this, because like, while I'm saying I think Ssumday did a great job in this series, he did a great job doing what you're talking about, at being asked to play that role. Mm-hmm. Here's what I'm worried about. I think that they probably only have him in that role, not just because Alfari is a menace to deal with, right? But I've been saying this for a few weeks. I wonder if they're kind of hiding him because I'm not convinced that he has the champ pool anymore.
Mhm.
You know, because what are we gonna see him play that's gonna be different? Like what champions do you want him on that you feel really comfortable with how he's been lately? The last thing we saw him on in the regular season was Gwen, which looked good but it was against Golden Guardians. But I still think like Gwen, I'm down for him playing Gwen. But other than Gwen, Gnar, Ornn, and then maybe Gangplank. I don't know about Gangplank, but maybe so we'll call it 3.5 champs.
I think
I'm
he
not
played Gangplank
convinced
well
he
against
has
EG.
a whole bunch more than that in the tank right now.
Yeah.
I mean, his Renekton, I guess, is good, but that's been banned out against him quite often.
Yep.
And look, I mean, I'm seeing what chat is saying, but like Jax was thrown out in chat, by the way, like he has like a 37% win rate on Jax.
Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty situational pick.
Yeah.
You've got to have the right.
Right. And I just like, look, and you guys are really thinking old Ssumday here. I'm just not sure it's still there with the depth of champ pool. And the problem with that is I wonder if TL has figured that out. Because if they know that and they don't really have to plan for much there, if we see them again, which would be if we made it to finals, I'm not sure how that goes. We didn't show them anything to be concerned about from Ssumday going forward.
100%. Aurelia is something you got to think about. Now, I don't know if you got to worry about it as a flex pick, right? But certainly in the hands of Abdaga, it's a problem. Diana, Viego, I don't know if we threw anything at them in the bot lane that they're going to be concerned about, to be honest with you, from a ADC perspective. So yeah, we gave them some stuff to worry about. They're not going to play Viego again. They don't want to. They're not going to do it.
But in the top lane, I'm saying.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. We did that in a lot of other places in this series. And we didn't even try to do that. Now, look, I think it's one of two things. It's either strategic recognition that it's unlikely to do that. And so why try? Because you try to put the fear of a champion in somebody and it doesn't work. And you have just lost potentially a game. And at the very least, what you've done is you've showed that, we don't need to worry about that part of it. It's kind of like you go for one of these weird comps. Upside is you pull a ban from people that they weren't planning for, and then it opens you up to do other things. The downside is you just give away a game. So for me, I think it's probably a little bit of both. That it's fine to have Ssumday play Lucian against Golden Guardians when he can 1v5 them and win the game by himself. It's not fine to have him do that against, and I'm not saying specifically, but just you don't go into it with a game plan. Well, we're just going to have Ssumday completely hard win his lane and then apply so much split pressure that they have no ability to play the game because it's never going to happen. So I think it's a mix of both strategic recognition that Alfari is different and that's not going to work. And we probably aren't as confident in some of Ssumday's champs as we have been in the past.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
And it's probably both.
And we don't tend to read chat during the podcasts like on here, but I did want to mention something that someone's saying. Fate Cloud was saying, if that was the case, he was talking about my comments on Ssumday and Champ Pool, said, I'm sorry to say, but Reaper would have swapped him out like he did in C9. It's like, you're talking about swapping out crazy prominent franchise player for an 18-year-old top laner. You know what I mean? Who's very volatile. And it's like, I think personally, that's something we can see next year. But I think they're going to be really careful, especially because the team was in first place for most of the split. I don't think like you're hitting the panic button that bad. I'm not saying Reaper would never do that, right? But it's like the options that you have at backup are more volatile, and situationally, the timing of it, which is the end of summer split, I'm not sure that anybody would really do that. And then And then the other comment was that, he played Gangplank 3 times against EG. We lost 2 of those games, and I was not as convinced with the form. That's why I called Gangplank maybe like half. Like he has 3.5 champs because it can go well, but I'm not sure. So all of that to say, I think we probably have to have him on that. Maybe there are other, like, again, I wouldn't mind seeing a Gwen come out. I feel like he played Gwen well, but because they nerfed the early attack speed 1% or whatever, people think it's unplayable. I wouldn't be mad if I saw that pick, but other than that, I'm just not sure. And that's like a worrying thing.
Presence. Yeah. Gwen, it's like they deleted Gwen from the game. The other thing I'll say is this. Reaper is thinking about, of course, sights set on the current playoffs, Worlds, but you got to think about next year too, right? Because he's been a coach for less than a full split, and his contract is for more than a full split. So he's trying to both keep his job long term and deliver on what we can hope to accomplish this split. Yeah. And I think he's done a good job of that already. For sure. He made some calls. He kept Ssumday in. This is all, we're in hypotheticalville here.
Yeah. Because we don't need to press an emergency button. Like we're like going to Worlds. Yeah. So, right. But
he made the calls which allowed us to get to Worlds. We're going. So that's great. Like that's job security for Rebird, honestly. And kind of the rest of this, I'd say, is like, again, unless you embarrass yourself and then you go to Worlds and you embarrass yourself again, like people are feeling pretty positive right now.
Yeah.
But you got to think about it. Do you really want to put, like Cole said, an 18-year-old in who has 1 game of LCS experience in both the highest stakes games you can play in the LCS? Like we are in contention for a title, and then transition him directly to Worlds. Like, no, you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And we think about Rikara. Like he had a similar trajectory.
That's
and
a very
it
good
wasn't
point.
Good.
Yep.
It is not developmental. It's not helpful. You break a player's confidence if you throw them into the wolves like that. It's not the right way to do it.
Yeah.
So I think even if Reaper is, and this is a big if, even if he's thinking, I think the future is, it's just, call it anybody other than Ssumday. Like, are you going to potentially risk giving up? Like, are you going to put tenacity in?
Right. It doesn't make sense, which is what I'm not even like happy that I've allotted this much time to talk about it, because it, you know what I mean? It shouldn't be, but yeah. I just wanted to point that out. So I think what we're doing is putting him in a role that we know he can still do well on especially on a champ like Ornn, like I said, where you can make up some of the gold difference by virtue of the champ's abilities. And then just, hoping that no one pushes too hard or realizes that. So I hope I'm wrong about that. I really do. And maybe we'll see something in the C9 series that'll be different. But Fudge is another one of those guys that as of late has just kind of had Ssumday's number. So I'm not sure. We'll have to see. One final note about the team before we move on, I alluded to earlier, is FBI has not really been the regular split FBI during the playoffs. So he was someone for like basically 8 weeks that we could lean on heavily all the time. It was virtually guaranteed that he was going to win lane and be the better ADC. I think that's been really up for debate in some of these, games. People love to hate on Tactical. I've made the point all year that I think he's better than people give him credit for. He looked very good, especially on Kalista. He looked way better of a Kalista than FBI, in my opinion. I'm putting FBI on carry watch because we need the FBI carry. Like, we need it. And he went for it on the Tristana. He really went for it a couple times, and it was close, but he got punished. You know what I mean? And I tweeted out, I would rather have the aggression than not. You know what I mean? So I'll live with that. But if he makes those plays happen, things could get really different. So I hope he doesn't stop trying. But as of right now, we need more out of him right now. That's what it feels like to me. So he hasn't been as much of a factor as he was during the regular season. But the Vayne, and as pointed out, in chat, the Vayne was good. I liked the Vayne. Wasn't sure I was gonna like the Vayne when it was locked in, but I liked the Vayne.
Yeah, and I think one of the benefits that he has is because we have viable carry options in multiple places. I think it is possible to put him on carries who are more late game carries and who need a pretty good, set of items to really get going. Because we're not looking at him to be that. It's kind of weird. It feels in a little bit like we've got him in kind of a Cody Sun position, which is, and I think the benefit is he doesn't have to play the hyper carry late game, like just show up with a 0-0-0 stat line at 25 minutes and then win everything. But I do think that it does open up some doors that otherwise wouldn't be if we needed him to start carrying it, 20 minutes. Tristana is just not it.
Yeah.
It's just not.
No, wait, you said Tristana for FBI. I actually liked it, man. I'm telling you, he made a couple mistakes, but like, I think I'm fine with it. I honestly am.
As I think about the kind of player he is and who I feel like he should be great on, Tristana is the champ that I just never feel like he got, maybe it's because we had Danny, 2021, but it's just I don't feel like he ever really got it going. And he did make some very questionable jumps, which is basically you either are a hero or dead on Tristana. So it's tough, but I just didn't feel like he had as much agency in fights. He did not get a bounce house going. He was never hopping.
It was very close a few times. I don't know. I see your point. I'm just going to disagree with it. Okay. I just lost what I was going to say, but I do think it's a fair counter argument to talk about how the switch of meta for playoffs has kind of taken away some of that from ADCs, in that the supports are not there as much, and you can't focus to the ADCs as much. I think that's a fair counter. But that's the meta for the whole league. It's not the meta for just our laner. You know what I mean? And we've clearly seen other ADCs be vitally important to other teams. And so when we're talking about feeling like a lot of my predictions, a lot of stuff is based on like my feelings about stuff. And like, it's about time for this to happen, it's like, and just looking at momentum, this should happen. I'm getting to the point where it's like, it's about time. I think we could see some FBI pop off pretty soon, because it's been a while and my man is hungry. I don't ever doubt him. All right. I think he's hungry.
Maybe this is the point we're starting to get to with this team. It feels, and look, let me just put the disclaimer on this. It is still early days with this team. We are still less than one full split in with this exact roster and this coach.
Yep.
So, let's not make any rash decisions here. What I'm starting to get the sense of is, and I like that you're calling it carry watch. I feel like over time, what could happen with this team is we have multiple viable strategies to enable different carries. And I think sometimes it feels like we have, if we don't have all three people, like game two, where we had basically everybody with equivalent carry stat lines, like that is probably not what we should expect every game. But it does feel like it would be nice if we had looks that were really setting FBI up to take over, or really setting Abidaga up to take over. And I feel like we got that a little bit with the Aurelia, where, it's like if the conditions are right, we can make any one of these things happen. And we're pretty confident that it can work out. And we all are very acquainted with what that looks like for closer, because it's almost always, it seems like, his opportunity. Like he's not playing Sejuani. And it feels like we're kind of moving away from that, at least lately, with the FBI stuff. I would love it if we got a series where we had, a best of 5 with wins through closer, through Abidaga, and through FBI, right? Like that would be, in soccer, they call it a perfect hat trick, right? Like that would be our perfect hat trick, is you get each of these carries. People are trying to catch up to the last one that you beat them with, and it enables the next one in line.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've said much. I will just circle back to how I led off the whole podcast, which is saying that, you know, in the final sum here, we ended up losing a very close series to what people thought was the runaway favorite in LCS. It was basically TSM is showing out and destroying everybody, and we came out and we showed them that they were not going to destroy us. And I think that we have elevated ourselves into a tier with just Team Liquid, and that's great. So I feel positive about that. And though we lost this series, we are not out of playoffs. And
Right.
surely the C9 series that's coming up on Saturday is not a gimme by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, I think many people will pick C9 over us. But I feel like you have to contextualize. You have to realize how good we were for so much of the season. Then the wheels fell off and we looked pretty bad. And when we got into playoffs, we shored up a lot of what was bad. I don't know if it's us just knowing more about ourselves.
Yeah.
Or
Having more
whatever.
time.
But yeah, having more time together. But the team has rebounded in a good way. And I would say we're not playing like we were earlier in the split. It's not that. But we are still contending. Team Liquid, their series win against us brings them to 3-5 against us this split. I don't know, man. I do not think it's that, like, I don't think we're being hard gapped here. And there are definite concerns. There are definite things to think about, but
they're a good team. They're a legitimately good team.
Yeah, they're playing great right now.
Are they the sixth
I'm
seed?
happy with where we are.
Are they the best sixth seed to ever be?
Were they
I
six?
can't remember. No, is that I might be
I don't think they
overstating
were
that.
6, right? They were like 4.
No, that was like Dig, wasn't it?
I think they were 4.
Or no, EG. I don't know. I'm off base here. They were lower than you thought they would be.
They
is
were
what it
5th.
was.
They
4.
were one win behind Cloud9. They were 5th. Okay.
They were 5th. So I wasn't that far off.
Yeah,
Actually.
you weren't.
5. But
You and
the
I
best
were
5
exactly
seed.
the same distance off. But yeah, so that's just what I want to say. I felt like there was a lot of like catastrophizing after that game, if that's a word, from the fans, and I'm just not feeling the same way. Even though that series was a beast to watch, and it felt sad to lose. Honestly, for the first time ever, I was watching the series and I got a literal headache from the stress.
Wow.
That's never happened to me watching anything before. I seriously had to like take some pills to make me feel better because my head was killing me and I was so stressed out about that series. I think because I realized like the stakes were like, hey, if we beat Team Liquid here, like that silences everyone who's doubted the whole time, you know, and we already locked Worlds and now we're going to be, you know, in the winners lock for finals. Like, I don't know.
They would have still found a way. Don't worry.
A lot at stake reputationally, but I'm feeling more positive about the team, especially like you said, remembering that this is a team that's been together for just one split and has already overcome a great deal of adversity, you know? So I don't know, man. I don't know. That brings us to C9. How are you feeling about this series that's coming up?
Well, it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. I think, you know, TL made them look very bad and TL didn't make us look very bad. So if I'm doing just that analysis, then I'd say we're in pretty good shape. You know, C9 beats TSM in a close 3-2. They have to come back for it, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't watch that series as closely, but I believe they were down 2-1 at one point.
I kept falling asleep during this series, so I can't exactly remember.
But I'm not convinced that TSM was robbed of their World's place. I think they just earned their way out of it. Like, I think that's how it goes. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it certainly doesn't feel like a gimme. Like there are certain years where you go up against the person who is in the losers bracket final, and it's like, yeah, we should have this no problem. It should be definitely us. Do you want me to do my prediction now, or
maybe you can give some more detail on why you're feeling this way or that?
I think for me, it's just a little bit of again, like I don't think that C9 is like TL is here. They're in peak shape. They're in peak form. They are hardened League of Legends athletes, and their team has finally kind of solidified. and we really gave them a run for their money. And we were very, very close, perhaps one Baron steal away, or not steal, Baron sneak away from beating them 3-1 in convincing fashion. Well, convincing fashion. So I think we're good. I legit think we're good. And I don't think the C9 is there. Like, this is not peak C9. This is not, our investments have finally paid off, and we are feeling very confident that our investors will cheer us for the decisions we've made. This is like, C9 is begging everyone to remember that they are one of the best teams in NA. And please, don't forget to root for us. So, do I think it's impossible that they beat us? Certainly not. Because I do think that at any point C9 could stop underperforming, basically. And I think they have been essentially this entire split. So that being said, I think we're in better form than they are right now. They eked out a 3-2 against TSM. I think that we'll be able to beat them. I'm going to call it 3-1 again. Fudge is not Alfari, and we saw that we can. Alfari did not win the series for TL. He came through in some big moments for sure, but he did not single-handedly win it. It was not like the top lane gap that just wrecked us. I think that Closer is currently a stronger carry than Blabber is, which is kind of crazy to say, but I think that's the reality of the situation. Perks has looked bad against us this split, and I think is still not in the form that people pay millions of dollars to have on their team. And then the bot lane.
You're not convinced Vulcan by Perks. You didn't get to watch much of Perks in this past series.
No, I didn't. I didn't watch him closely.
It did feel like he was regaining, some of what he's capable of. Not totally, but
I think the thing I saw is that he got the interview at the end. So probably because
it seemed like he took like G2. It did seem like he took a step forward, I think, during this series, and is closer to the Perks we expected.
That's kind of how I felt about Perks the entire split. It's like he's performing at something less than what was expected. And look, if he flips the switch and this is where he is unlocked, and now he's going to be hard carrying, then sure, that's gonna be a problem. But I'm not going into this series assuming that that's gonna happen, because I think Abbedagge is really good too. Like, I think even if Perks plays in Perks fashion and form, I think Abbedagge is still capable of keeping up. And it's kind of like Ssumday Alfari, right? Like, I don't think that it's going to be hard lose to Perks in this series, even if he is in really good form. Yeah. And then the bot lane, Vulcan had a great game against us their last time around. So, I think that we got to watch out for that. Probably just don't give him well. Or actually, he had Nautilus last time against us. So, but yeah, I think we've shown that we have the ability to still develop new looks. And I'm expecting that we have at least one or two new things and some stuff that's just going to be hard for them to answer, even if they know exactly what we're going to bring.
So you're predicting 3-1 100T?
Back to it, 3-1. I almost had it with TL. Sticking with it.
So I was thinking about the Perks thing. Like I said, it did look to me like he took a step forward to his old self in the last series. Not what we were expecting, but at least more on track. I wonder if Abbedagge ends up being analogous to Tim Duncan for League, where it's the player that it's kind of an unflappable player, someone who's unresponsive and you can't tilt, you can't like prod and poke at, because he's just going to do what he does regardless. Like, I don't think we can point to many bad Abbedagge games, right? There are games where he's great, and there are games where it's just kind of like a neutral, and that's what Tim Duncan feels to me like, is like just this player that's going to be doing his thing. And Perks, Jizuke, they are probably more, and Jensen, they're probably more players that like to get a rise out of it. They try and mess with you. They want to annoy you. They want to be that thorn in your side. And Abbedagge, the Tim Duncan, is just like, I don't care.
Right. Head down.
That's what it feels like to me, man. That's what it feels like to me. So,
and like every once in a while, absolutely devastates your team.
Yeah. Yeah. So I actually like Abbedagge in this matchup more than I thought I would when preseason.
On paper.
And of course, so much of that is because of Perk's form over the split.
Yeah.
But I actually, I feel kind of positive about that. I will say, I do think Fudge just has a way in top lane against us, which maybe that's me. Maybe it's because I'm so annoyed by him.
But wouldn't you have said the same
that I curse? But that's where I'm going with that. Is if Ssumday is able to play like he has been during playoffs, I think we're going to be okay with it. He, maybe it's the more limited role or whatever, but I think that he's just been able to be more solid and reliable for us. So yeah, man, I'm actually feeling pretty positive about our matchup with C9. I think it's going to be shaky though. So I'm going to give us a 3-2 win over C9. I think we make it back to TL in the finals.
That would be.
I hope this is not a Tim Sevenhusen curse where, because fate likes to go against me, especially when my hopes are high. But I really do think that despite C9 kind of looking better, I think we've looked better as well. And so I'm kind of excited for this.
Yeah.
I'm kind of excited. And yeah, it just feels like we're going to be able to get the job done. I get that feeling. And again, it's about time for an FBI pop off. I'm hoping we get it because we're going against two of the most punchable NA players. Surely FBI feels the same way about Sven, man. Go at him. Go get the job done. So yeah, that'll be interesting to watch. But of course that means since we are both choosing 100T to advance for C9, that the next day we turn around and play Team Liquid. So what are you feeling about that series?
Oh man.
The rematch.
The rematch. Yeah. Okay. We're in extra innings now. I'm picking us 3-2.
Wow. Yeah. We got a finals win prediction from Jordan.
I didn't realize that's what I just did.
A title prediction. Yeah.
I mean, we were so close. We were so close to winning against them 3-1. And it's they earned it. So it's not that we threw. They're a really good team. They're smart. They've got Core JJ who does have a galaxy brain inside his head. And but here's the thing. We know how to play against them to be effective early on. And it just feels like the piece that's missing is that final stretch. It's just closing it out. Easier said than done. But it's not like we were always, 2 steps behind them. For a lot of these games, we were 1 or 2 steps ahead of them. And so yeah, I'm sticking with us. It's more fun when I call it. I enjoy it more when I predict us, even if it's not likely to happen. It's a good way to be.
Yeah. So my prediction, Jordan, we saw us hang close with TL. It was competitive. I'm sad to say though.
Yeah.
That I think they figured out some things. I think they figured out that we are going to have this limited play style. I just don't feel good about it, man.
You don't think we're there yet? That's fine.
I don't think we're there yet. And so I'm predicting 100T to lose 0-3. I don't think we're going to win a game.
0-3. What?
They're going to have a full week of rest. They're going to have a full week of prep. They're going to sit back and see what we have to play against C9 with our backs against the wall. I'm not convinced we're going to have anything left. And no shade at the players, no shade at the staff, because I think they've done an excellent job to get us here. So I'm not even going to feel bad about it. But I do think we lose the title, and I don't think we take a game from them. So
that would be a repeat of the last time we faced them in the finals.
Yeah, because that's a good point.
0-6 all time.
Things are never easy, man. Things are never easy. Winning titles is never easy, especially if you have one split to do it in.
Well, and yeah, this is I didn't think about that. I mean, I knew that it was the next day.
Yeah.
But that is a huge disadvantage to have to go back to back.
Let me say though, I don't think that this means TL is just overall so much better than us, because I don't think that. I think that we're in a tier with them. I think they have a slight edge, but that it's a bit the lack of prep time and rest and the just the rhythm of how things work and how our last series against TL went. I'm just not optimistic, and I'm gonna be fine with that. I'm gonna be fine. I'm gonna say GG's to Team Liquid. I'll see how spicy Alfari gets with his victory lap. Maybe I'll say something, but that's just where I see it going. And no, I know chat's probably thinking that I'm doing this to do my reverse jinx on us. I promise that's not the case. It's my sincerely held opinion, because I'm responsible to give that to you, what I really think, not what I hope. So
what if they I predicted a 3-1 against TL. Did I go back to 3-1?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What if they only prepare for C9? Surprise.
Well, they already prepared for us and have a lot of stuff ready. So I
know. Yeah. Okay. Well, as always, Cole, you are here to predict what is likely to happen, and I'm here to predict what I hope happens. So we'll keep it going.
Let the record show. Yeah.
The prediction game continues.
So and the prediction game continues. As I predicted, this pod has gone on very long, but we still got to race through some listener takes. All right. It wouldn't be a pod if we didn't do this. So let me do this really quick. And a lot of this is going to be stuff we've already covered, to be honest. So I think we can't go through fast. So Joseph Forlenza Jr., the series was lost with the top lane draft. That's it. That's the whole take. So I think referring to Ornn 3 times, Gnar 2 times, no carries for Ssumday. We hashed this out. I'm in disagreement.
It depends, Cole, on how nuanced you want to read this take. Maybe he's saying that we just didn't have the ability to play anything else because of Alfari being too good. And
I think we came out in front of expectations on the top lane matchup. So I'm not going to blame
Alfari didn't beat us. And I'd say
exactly. Yep. Styx NA said, with both TL and C9 looking like they're having a resurgence, is it too soon to say that 100T looks slightly weaker than both? Or do we need to wait till the C9 series to properly see where we rank among the top 3?
I mean, I think that you can certainly make evaluations of where people stand currently. It feels a little bit like the question here, or the take is, like in the grand scheme of things. And I'm always a little bit hesitant to do like overall power rankings or kind of like the strength of a program based solely on playoff series. So I don't know. I think probably we need to wait until even longer to see, like, next split is kind of what I'm thinking, to see where we rank among the top 3. I mean, currently we are one of the best 3 teams because we are in the kind of the final 3. But that's the question there is, do you maintain that going into the next split for me?
So I think the easy answer to this is we played TL close when no one else could. And I still favor us in a tier among just us and TL. I don't think C9 is where we are. So disagree. Maybe the series will recontextualize that. I'm not sure, unless we get smashed, I'm not sure I'm going to change my opinion a whole lot. It might just be a matter of, like I said, champ pool, what we have available, but we will see. Wanton Manton says, or Wanton Manton, if we want to go that way. Or Wanton Monton. Says, hot take, we are going to take away from the Team Liquid match that our resources should be allocated differently, and that we are going to see Ssumday in more of a carry role against C9. So I firmly disagree here.
Yeah.
Thinking pretty much the opposite, that, that champ pool is just too limited, and that's why we're doing what we're doing. But that makes it a true hot take, as he said. It is
a hot take.
And yep. If it gets locked in, if we lock in Ssumday on a carry champ, I'm still going to be like, let's go. Let's just see it. I'll be excited. As long as we don't try it and then it loses and then we try it again. That'll be the only time I'm going to be upset about that.
I do think, unfortunately, that Fudge is in a tier of top laners good enough to make that a very high risk move. And
Yeah.
I just don't think that we've seen that it can be good enough to have Ssumday on the picks that he was on. So, if I'm making the call on that, I'd say, I don't know that we need to run from that decision. I think it's probably been affirmed in their mind.
JC101 says, we were so worried about Alfari versus Ssumday that we effectively negated Ssumday's playmaking ability. I say give Ssumday a carry and some resources and let him go to town. There we have it. Oh my Josh 5 says, I think we need to see Abidaga on more aggressive champs. His Aurelia was so good that it changed the way we fought in game 2. I think if we want to win the title, we need more picks like that and away from the Lissandras of the world. I think I'm here for that. I don't think the Lissandra was that bad. Like I said, I think he was good at it. And it wasn't enough. Maybe like we didn't just have enough in the tank with that champion. So it's not so much that I agree with the whole like, oh, get away from Lissandra, but I do agree with let's get him on LeBlanc, let's get him on Aurelia, let's get him on some fun assassins and let him go.
Yep.
I
remember his Akali. His Akali was fantastic.
Right, yeah. I'm all in on that.
Yeah.
Urge to Surge said FBI's mechanics, plenty of opportunities in which he could have made better plays to change the outcomes of team fights. Sounds like you agree?
Without looking real close at this, I think
about the Trist.
Yeah. Yep.
I think maybe, but I'm not really convinced. Like I said, I think he got unlucky. I do, but I don't like him on Kalista. Kalista mechanics, sure. And then the final one. This is one of my favorite things to think about that's been said in a while. Glenn E. Taylor says, do you think Sunday series will help or hurt the narrative that has been evolving towards the end of the split that 100T doesn't exactly win games, just teams that are clearly better than them throw against them?
Oh,
thoughts?
Find me a more dislikable narrative.
As a 100T
I'm not saying that Glenn is coming up with this, because I know he's just kind of representing what.
Yeah, no, I've definitely seen this. Right.
Look, if you're still arguing that 100T just lucks into stuff, like, you're wrong.
Right.
You're just wrong. That we talked at length about how that game 3, the
gold lead one.
The
12K.
There wasn't a throw there. Honestly, there wasn't a throw. We just executed perfectly, right? Like, so.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I'm not going to go back into it. We just did what the only way you can get back into a game where you're down that far is to remove from the fight key people at key moments. You got to put the LeBlanc in an ice coffin. You got to remove the Kalista from the fight with a buster shot. You got to CC a bunch of people with Rel. None of those abilities require you to have powerful items.
Yeah.
And we did them all perfectly.
Right.
And that's why we won that fight. So that's not them throwing. That's just us playing well.
Yeah. And so to answer the question, does the Sunday series help or hurt that narrative? It hurts the narrative. We played them closely when no one else has, and we played them in the manner that you're describing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Think about that. They snuck a win from us. You could argue that Baron Seal is like us throwing the game by not putting the ward in the right place. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that hurts the narrative. Yeah, I think it hurts the narrative, and good, because good riddance to that narrative.
But I'm sure there will be people who look at that fight and say, what is TL doing? They are, what a garbage team. This region is doomed.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, that's just what you want to believe, and that's fine. You can continue to do that.
Yep. Well, that's going to do it for us tonight. Thanks everybody for the takes. Thanks everybody for being with us for an extended pod. Pushing the 2-hour mark even.
Whoa.
This was fun. And I like I said, I'm optimistic overall. Even though I predicted that we lose 0-3 in the finals, I'm already proud of where we are. I'm proud that we came an inch from making finals. And I think we're poised to be, kind of the best version of ourselves right now. And I'm going to sit back and enjoy where that takes us for the rest of the playoffs, and then for Worlds. And then, like I said, a long time ago, when we first got Abidaga and Reaper, then 2022, that's the year where it starts mattering. So
Yep.
I'm looking forward to this. Anything beyond this is bonus for me. So
Yeah,
let's just enjoy it. We're going to Worlds and we're good.
It's great.
Screw
It's a
the
great time to be
haters,
a fan.
man. Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
So,
No, it's fun.
yeah.
And we look good too. We're going to Worlds and we look good. It's great.
Yeah.
It's a
All
great
right.
place to be.
Well, we'll be here to do this again next week after whatever happens in finals weekend. It'll be fun. I'll try and hang out in the Discord around those games and see if I can do like a watch party kind of deal. We'll see what we can pull off with our schedules. But yeah, so until Thursday, we love you.